Today I'm going to talk about twisting flat silk. And to do that, we need a stationary object to keep the tension under control while we're twisting the silk. Today I'm going to demonstrate using a clamp from your local hardware store, a quick release clamp. We'll also be using a traditional awl for one of the demonstrations and a push pin, which is a common thing that you might have around the house. We're going to start the process by attaching the quick release clamp to the table. Here I have attached it to a box so that you can see it closer as we do the twisting. I also have a spool of white thread, and I'm going to bring you a little bit closer to where I'm going to be working so that you can see the process a little bit easier. Now I'm going to unspool the thread, and I'm going to go around our stationary object here, our clamp, once, and then back to twice. And then I'm going to cut off the flat silk so that we have 4 strands now wrapped around the clamp. Then I'm going to put my hand down onto this bunch of threads, turn them over, and create a loop that goes around the clamp. Now that I have it attached to the clamp, I want to take 2 of the strands and put them on one side of the clamp and 2 on the other side, so they're not touching. Then you can lay one down and then take your right hand. You're going to start always with your right hand to make a Z twisted thread. So we're going to start with the base of your palm, and you're going to push, 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 letting those strands twirl up your right hand. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Then, to control this tension while I am doing the other side, because we have to do the other side now, then I'm going to put it in my teeth and do the same thing with the other half. 2 strands. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Now, at this point, you want to test these 2 halves because you want to have the strands have the same amount of tension on each so that you get a controlled, even twist. You don't want one side lopsided or tighter than another side, because another term that you can use when you're twisting is tightness and looseness. So I'm going to hold the 2 strands separate from each other so that I can keep the tension on the ones that are up by the awl or the clamp. And now I'm going to release these strands. And you can see that they are fairly tight. This is going to make a fairly tight twisted. And you can see that the loops where they're turning back on themselves are fairly tight and tiny. And that's what I'm trying to show you today. So again, you want to pop down this twist down the strands, the 2 sides of the strands, and now we're going to combine them. And I'm just going to wrap those 2 ends around each other, like you're going to do when you start to make your tennis shoes, and then combine them together and push it up my left hand. So the under twist, which is the 2 strands that were on each side, is called the under twist, is done first, and usually 3 or 4 times up your right hand. Then you're going to combine them and do it up your left hand, usually 1 time less than you did it up your right hand. So that's number 3 for me. So now I'm going to remove this from the clamp. You will see that it is holding its twist together. You can put a knot in this end if you like, but it won't come apart. This time we're going to make a left twisted thread, which makes an S twisted. We're going to put our stationary object, our push pin, in a stretcher bar to control it. And then we are going to measure off our 4 strands, 1, 2, 3, 4 of our flat silk that we're going to make into a 4-into-1 S twist thread. So we're going to make our overhand knot and secure that. And then we're going to divide our two strands from each other and put one around the other side so that they're controlled. And we're going to start up our left hand this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put that half in our mouth and do the other group. 3, 4. Now, to be sure that we're going to have an even twist, we want to judge our loops. So we're going to hold the two strands tight from the push pin and release the hand that was doing the twisting. And you can see that we have these little tiny loops that are forming where the thread goes back on itself. We're going to join our two halves together now that they seem to be equal, wrapping them around each other, and we will push this thread up our right hand as we start to make the S-twist thread. And we want to do it one time less than we did it up as they were under twist threads. So we did 2 up the left hand for the under twist and 1 that put them together as a thread up the right hand. And here is our twisted thread. I will show you all the threads that we're making at the very end when we finish. This time we're going to make a thread that is made with 1 strand of flat silk into 2 different strands, 2 smaller threads. And to do that, we have to divide this 1 strand into 2 strands, and then each one of those halves into quarters. So it takes 4 different divisions to make a 1 strand into 2 strands. You'll notice I've put the awl in the corner here of a Japanese frame, and we're going to take and do the same process that we have done before, wrapping it around the awl to control it, and then making our overhand knot to make sure that it's stable. Now I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to put it between the thread, the groups of filaments here, so that I am equally dividing this strand into 2 different strands, 2 different equally. Sometimes it doesn't want to go equally, so we have to encourage it. So now I've got 2 different halves of the same strand that we started with. Then I'm going to make an overhand loop again and segregate this group of filaments, and I'm going to split them again because we are going to make a thread that is 1 into 2 threads. So I'm going to take and split these in half again. As usual, I will take and separate them on the stationary object, this time our awl. And again, we're going to make a Z twisted thread, so we're going to go up our right hand and twist, 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 and catch, and push, 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 and catch. And if you drop it, don't worry, because when you pull it back out, you will have lost very little twist. Just give it a little pop to make sure that the twist is evenly distributed throughout that thread, that grouping that you're twisting. And now push, 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 and catch. So that's number 3. And then to control this half, again, you put it in your mouth. And do the same thing with the other half of threads, the other group of filaments. 2, 3. Be careful you don't bite on those, because it's easy to take your teeth right through those little filaments. Now again, we want to do our testing, so we're going to allow those threads to collapse as we have before, and see that we have little tiny threads that the loop is more or less equal with when we release the tension. Then we're going to wrap these around each other as we have done before, so that we can begin to put the other halves together. So now we're going to go up our left hand as we did before with our larger threads. You can do 2 or 3 times depending upon how the twist is working out. And here we have taken 1 strand of flat silk and we have made it into 1 twisted thread here and another half that you can save and do it, make the other thread. So you'll be making 2 different threads from 1 strand of flat silk. Now, one of the wonderful things about flat silk is that you can take this 1 spool of flat silk, you can combine it with many different colors and make different colored threads. You can also combine it with a metallic. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the metallic thread coming off this spool. Oftentimes when you get the metallic, it's a pre-measured length, but this time it's on a spool. So we're going to use it and use it as a guideline for our making our thread. So you're going to wrap it around your stationary object and secure it. This time I'm going back to the clamp and hold that tight. Then we're going to measure against it with the flat silk. I'm going to go back to also the white flat silk that we were using to start with. And we're going to make a 2-into-1 thread. So I told you can make many different diameters of threads, and you can use 1 or 2 strands. You could use 3 or 4 strands. Sometimes we even use 6 or 8. It makes very big threads. In this case, we're just going to do a 2 plus number 1 plus number 1 metallic into 1 thread. So we're going to, again, half hitch those all together so that they're nice and snug around each other. We're going to separate out 1 of the strands of flat silk from the others. Then we're going to take and isolate the metallic, and we're going to take and remove, we're going to split half of the flat silk strand and take it away, because when you add a strand of metallic, it is common that you take away one half of a strand of the flat silk and remove it and save it for making another thread. So now what I have is I have a half of a strand of the thread flat silk and of the metallic in this side, and here I have the 1 strand waiting to be combined into the thread. Now, before you want to combine the 2 together, you have to make sure that there's a little bit of twist on the flat silk before you add in the metallic. If you don't, the metallic becomes the core of the thread. It's stiff and it will not twist very easily, and it'll let the flat silk wrap around itself. So we want to put a little bit of under twist on that flat silk half, and now we can bring in the metallic to add that together. And now you want to go up your hand about 2 to 3 times, depending upon how long your thread is. And now you can put that in your teeth and do exactly the same thing with the single strand. 3, and we'll give it 4. Now there's one thing about when you add a metallic into a thread, you can't do the tension pop because the metallic is stiff and it won't. You can't tell where the loops are being even or not. So you can leave out that part of the twisting process. Now we're going to wrap these around each other as usual, pull them up tight, and now up the left hand. 1, 2, 3. And now we have a metallic and silk thread. And as I mentioned earlier, I will lay these out so that you can see the difference in each one of the threads that we have made today. I decided to include a softer twisted thread so that you could get a feeling for the making of that. I'm using the same flat silk that we started with in the first demonstration, the same clamp that we used before. Here again, we're joining our 4-into-1 strands together, and I'm going to put in the separation between the 4 strands. And now I'm only going to go up my hand about 3 times. And that's 3 up my right hand, goes in my teeth. And again, 3 times. Again, we're going to pop them and look at our loops. And those loops look a little bit tighter than I want to see. So I'm just going to take some of that thread, twist off of that thread. So it's a little, the thread gets a little bit, the twists are not as tight. So again, pop them all the way down so that you can take some of that twist off. And you'll notice now that our loops are a little bit bigger. And so it's getting softer and softer. So if I want to take off some more, it's equal now, but I think I want to really to show you a very soft twist. And so I'm taking some of that twist off by just stroking it and then popping it and then releasing it. Now you can really see the difference in those loops that I was talking about earlier. So now we're going to put those together and take them up my left hand, wrapping them around each other first, and then going up the left hand once, twice, and that's going to be stable. And we can remove that. And I will going to lay this out with our other group of threads. We started making our twist today with the white flat silk. The first one that we made was 4-into-1 tight twist. Then we went over with the turquoise silk and made 4-into-1 S twist. Then we went to the gold and we made 2 different threads out of the same thread. So this is 1 thread into 2 threads. And then we went and added a metallic into the white flat silk that we started with. And so this is 2 strands of white flat silk plus 1 strand of metallic. At the very last thread that we made was a softly twisted one so that you could compare it to a tightly twisted one. Notice that these twists are more open and the loops that you use to create them will be much bigger than with a tightly twisted thread.